Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the Loan Productivity Dashboard. Your instructors for today are Anna Lynn and Sarah. We expect this class to last for about an hour. As you join us today, all phones were placed on mute to eliminate background noise and interruptions. To facilitate answering questions you have during the broadcast, we use the chat feature. You can find the chat feature by hovering over the bottom of the presentation screen. You should then see the toolbar with a series of icons. Click the one that says chat, then select to presenter and type your question. Questions may be sent at any time. We'll be stopping throughout the presentation to answer these questions. We appreciate your attendance today, and with that, I'll turn it over to Anna Lynn and Sarah to get started. Enjoy your presentation.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for your time this afternoon as we talk about the Loan Productivity Analysis Dashboard. As you can see, we've already pulled it up on our screen on the CU-based session. So if you're having trouble seeing the CU-based session, definitely let us know by using that chat feature, or maybe just make sure that you're also signed in on your PC, because that has happened before. So, you want to take it away?
Yes, so this dashboard is one of our very newest ones. You know, and as if you're initiated to the world of dashboards and CU-based, you know that might mean when we hit this button, we're going to see an active beta pop-up that will talk to us about how our active beta program is one of the things that allows us to sort of get these dashboards developed and pushed out to you a little faster than sometimes our development cycle can manage if we have to do a full-blown QC on them. And in the case of this one, we almost double dipped on ourselves with pre-existing work because it's actually a dashboard version, slightly modified, a few things different. Not everything is, you know, a clone comparatively, but it is a dashboard version of Tool 788. So a lot of that, you know, logic doesn't necessarily need to be retested, but there's enough new elements in here. We slapped an active beta tag on it because we are still, even though it's out in the live environment here for you to work on, we are still doing some of that follow-up QC to wrap it up and graduate it out of this program, if you will. And so we are hoping that you, as you're using it, if you find some daily or regular usage for this and something crosses your mind, or you say, I wonder if that's supposed to work that way, that you'll be reaching out to us and letting us know, right, so we can look into it a little bit with you as well. So I do want to stress the point, and that it is I can't think of the word now. It's a very close clone of the Tool 788 report, but there is that difference between reports and dashboards.
Yep, dashboards are much more interactive. You're allowed to play with the data that you see on the screen, kind of modify it as you go through, further filter down as you make those analysis out of working with the data, whereas the report is, I need data, give me some raw numbers. And that's what you get. Yeah, exactly.
Print it out on paper or use your school files or OutQs or something. And so the first screen when we get into this dashboard is similar. You get a similar sized screen if you were trying to get into the report version of this tool. But the report is going to present you with a couple of options on a delinquency analysis and a trial balance analysis and a couple of different angles. We address those later on in this tool. So in this one, we're actually asking you to choose, do you want to look at only your loans on the books today, your loans that have been closed as of today, or both? Like both open and closed loans. Why might you want both? Well, maybe you want to set a filter to say the open date. I want any loan with an open date in the entire year of 2018. That might be a valid need, and that is often a valid need. That's something I get across my desk quite often. Yeah. And if you don't check the both option on the end, which is not checked by default, then you're actually only going to get the loans that were opened in 2018. They do have an open date in that year, but they are still with you today. You're not going to get those lists, any of those that were opened and actually closed yet so far. So if you're trying to look for total disbursement dollars in 2018, you've fallen short already. But not a big deal. That's why we build these options in here. You would just pop back out here and flip it over and get the accurate result. You have the control.
As you can see right here, we have this little test credit union label on here. Just a quick little disclaimer that we're working with test data today, so we won't be looking at real account numbers or members. So if anything looks a little silly, that might be why. So the other thing to notice here is that we have this process date. So if I were to select it as of the end of February 2019, because we're not in 2018, even though we were just talking about it, is there a difference in that time slice when we compare that data? Will this be like the snapshot as of the end of the month versus if I'm looking at today's processing date, the information as it is most up, oh, not February, the information as it is most up to date right now?
Right. So this process date does correspond to an end of month time slice. So you would, if you just pulled up that date picker a second ago, and we could say, I don't know, give me February 12th or something like that. You technically can click that day, but what the database is only going to recognize is the month and year that you have picked, actually. So potential point of confusion there, that was a very good one to bring up, Sarah, is to make that point that you are only, regardless what actual date you're picking, you're only actually selecting the February 2019 period. And so then it's drawing upon a copy of your loans product on the system that was taken as of the end of month February sort of processing cycle. So you really don't, most often I typically just leave it at whatever the current month is, what I pop into this tool as, but occasionally you will want, especially if you're trying to look for, say in that example I talked about, the current balance of your loan, right, or current balance of a certain segment of your loan, then technically you could set it right back to January, or you could set this process date back to 12/2018, just December 2018. And because that means your whole entire data set is now sort of locked into anything up to that end of month time period, you also get whatever their current balance was as of December.
Yep, as of the end of the year of 2018.
Right. What that does mean, though, is that literally that's a snapshot of your loan portfolio as the end of December. So if you changed your mind in the middle of working through the tool and you said, okay, now give me all the loans that have been opened since January to today, you wouldn't find nothing, because
it would tell you zero.
You would find nothing because you told it back on this page to only ever work with loans that had been on the record as of December 31st. Yeah, so there's nothing in there for 2019.
So I think that's just an important point to focus on, because if you're thinking like, oh, my numbers aren't matching up, that might be why you'll want to pay attention to these time slices that you're working with in CU-Base. If someone gives you a file as of what the information was, 3 days ago, the numbers change every day. Data is dynamic, something that's really important to keep an eye on. So you'll obviously have different information today than you did 2 days ago because people are still borrowing money from you.
Exactly.
Making payments on those loans.
Payments.
Yeah. Any preference here? Just
let's leave it open. Yeah.
Cool.
So a couple differences on this screen, a couple additions, I guess I should say, to this screen. One I'll point out is the credit score on the left, upper left. First of all, there are so many options.
Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming at first, but don't be afraid.
Yeah, you could. Let's do it just to show everybody. We haven't typed in or picked a certain anything. We've typed nothing, and if you hit enter from this screen, it will actually present us with results.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything to get data to appear, keeping it really low maintenance, other than select that time period in which you're studying, and then whether you want open active loans, closed loans, or all of the above.
Exactly. So what we came up with is, as of today, the active loans on this test credit union, there's 7,415 of them. And each one of these rows is an individual loan record. So if we're starting to read the columns left to right, we can go ahead and see account number 1 has a 771 suffix that is written off. I know that because loan category 99 is a written off loan. Yeah. So if you do work in lending and you're very familiar with your coding structure, your configuration structure, you could read these columns left to right like a book, even though they're just numbers. If you're not so familiar with your lending configuration, then that may be something you want to back up to the previous screen and use the lookup button to remind yourself what a 4 is, for example, on purpose code. Right. But account number 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loans. Account number 2 has about the same. Account number 6 has 1 loan, and that's okay that we see the same account number duplicated, because the point here is the loan. Right. And so we start to see information about which employee IDs have were part of the various processes of opening and booking this loan, approving, interviewing, underwriting, collecting, and opening the actual account. Yep. I like, so we see a dispersed amount or, and disbursement limit.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that we can trigger this, where is it on the bottom? It's hard to see for us on our screen. I hope you can see that. But there's a button that says show current balance. And when she clicks that just now, that column sort of in the middle right is actually flipping to show current balance. No,
there we go.
Yeah. To show what the current balance of the loan is, and then right next to it is the disbursement limit. You know, if it's an open end, we're looking at their actual borrowing limit. If it's a closed end, we're looking at pretty much the funding, the booking amount of the loan.
Yep, exactly.
So some quick information, just kind of row by row about any individual loan. But from here, this is probably more high level, or pick one off the list, maybe sort. I guess would be fun, sort the current balance real quick, and we'll see. Wow, it looks like somebody.
Yeah, the highest balances jump right up to the top there, don't they?
That's a big balance on a loan, but right, this is Touch Credit Union, remember? Or what's the highest couple of interest rates out there on the system? What's the highest or lowest credit score out there?
That would not be a fun one.
Blank in this case. Yep, there's another tester. It looks like we were going to see what happened if we put a 99% interest rate on it. So yeah, there's just get some quick out of any segment of loans. Find the ones that are outliers is a really quick option for the screen.
Yes.
But what I'm typically doing here is I might actually run this into an export. I want to export it to a database file and download it, or do query with this list. All of those filters we saw on the very first screen that we skipped right through and we'll go back to are your data mining, point and click data mining, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you can essentially you could have said, I want loans from this loan category that were opened on this date and haven't had a transaction since such and such a time period, that are only open-ended loans. So they're, credit card, they're going to swipe maybe or something. And we'd come in here to maybe 500 loans. That's a small segment of your loan portfolio.
Right.
And then we could export this list with just member account numbers to send these people a message. Maybe, hey, what about a balance transfer? They're clearly, if they've got credit cards, they're probably spending elsewhere and have balances elsewhere to bring onto yours. Or the complete dashboard list. And correct me if I'm wrong, that brings the whole, what we see on the screen.
Everything on the screen gets looped right in.
Yeah. So if we were to do an export to a database file with that second option, you would have a query, a file to download or query with all those columns already built in and available to work with further in Excel or in query.
So, and then here's where you would take that list if you wanted to and plug it right into Member Connect and use the file name that you just named it as.
Exactly.
Anything else that you wanted to do on the screen? We've talked about this for a second.
Talk about what, common bonds?
Filters.
Oh, filters, yeah.
So this filters option, in case you ever get lost when you're on this dashboard, because there are so many options and so many different things to look at, you can easily find what you were doing in here. So if you're thinking, all right, I've already forgotten what in the world I'm looking at here. Is this all my loans, all my open loans, like every loan ever? What's going on here?
Those first 3 points are probably more critical ones.
Yeah. So right now we're saying the loan information as of the most current day. So we're looking at it as of right now. We're looking at just our open loans. So this is not referring to open-end loans, obviously. This is referring to open and active loans. And then right now we're also including written-off loans, which can really throw off your numbers if that's not something that you're trying to analyze or want to include.
And that's by default. We didn't say to include written-off loans. That is by default.
Yep. And then all of the other options that are down here, they'll be zeroed out currently. But I just want you to know that you can easily page down and find out, if other filters were applied, so that you don't have to constantly be backing out to the previous screen to see what filters you have already applied to the data set that you're reviewing right now.
And all of that is summarizing what you would have picked on the filter screen. So we'll come back in and look at maybe common bonds and analysis and summary in a second. But let's back up and apply some filters. Just go through some examples maybe.
Sure.
Actually, before we go through an example, I forgot to add the point. So I talked about how credit score is something that is now an option for filtering. And this is very cool. So if you do have a certain tiers, credit tiers that you want to say potentially, you consider this one your B paper, for example, just throw those credit tiers in and filter it that way. I'm not sure, I was going to say, I thought maybe we had the risk level filter in here, but I don't think we actually do. So that would be one way to get that accomplished, actually. But on the very far right of our filtering options, we also have employee responsibility assignments. And not only just employees by their IDs, but employees by their branch, the branch that they're assigned to. Pretty cool stuff. The reason this is important, this is very important, and this is the first place that we actually make it possible for you to easily filter this way consistently in the same tool. Because there are, I'll back up for a second and talk about some of our loan reporting tools are designed for, they're each designed for a different purpose. And so some of them are typically going to pull you a report if you're filtering by branch based on the member branch, actually. So what is that member's home branch that they're assigned to? And another couple of the reports will pull, if you're filtered by branch, based on the employee IDs branch who worked with that loan. And for some purposes, you definitely do want to know that the loan was processed at that location or by, by the employees at that branch versus that member who is 2 cities over but had come to this one because whatever, she's doing her shopping there that day or something.
Because the car is right there.
Yeah. Or the dealership's out there or something. And so that is one piece of feedback we have gotten quite often is I just want a way that I can go in and consistently know where a loan was processed at the branch. And I don't care so much about where the member's from. I really don't. I just want to know how many loans this branch location processed. So even though we're labeling it as the employee branch, the interviewer branch, approval branch, this is one of those spots where you can now every single time use this tool and filter to a segment of your loan portfolio that has been opened at a certain location. So let's do that. Let's pick so you could do the interviewer branch. Interviewer branch is who took the application usually. Approver branch is going to be who underwrote it. So if you're trying to track underwriters at certain locations. Let's do the interviewer branch and select all of them, but unselect the 55, 64, and 78. That's kind of funny.
Those are the ones I was looking at too.
And I'm just choosing a silly example because we want to make sure we have some when we pull this up. But a branch manager could come in and pick their own branch right now. And or if it's a regional situation, there are a couple of their branches, multi-selection. And it is recapping for us that we have 23 selected. And this helps you figure out if you back up to this screen, you're going to back in and out of this screen a lot as you use this tool. Those help you remember which ones you actually worked in.
It'll show you that this one is currently activated. This filter is in use.
And so now let's maybe do a maturity filter. And set it for dates in the future, right? So let's do any loan maturing from today until, or that's close enough.
I figured future meant like tomorrow.
Until the end of this year.
Okay.
So any loan that we've got on the books that was opened at that branch and is maturing so far this year. Cool. And we haven't said open-end or closed-end or, loans on indirect members or we haven't done any of that yet. Also, let's uncheck the box for including written off loans and hit enter.
As you can see, it's pretty user-friendly on the foot.
So we came up with 42 loans that were opened by employees at our group of branches that we selected. And if we wanted to get a little deeper insights about this segment, because the whole point is we don't want to just see the loans sometimes, we want to study them. We want to analyze them. We could let's hit the summary button first. Okay, so what we see right here, do you know what this is?
Yeah, I get really excited whenever I see these screens. This does all the math for you guys.
Exactly.
For those of you who need to be big on numbers for your job, but you don't necessarily love working with them from the point of actually doing the math to get them. The summary screens are always my best friend, and I'm sure they might be some of yours too. So this basically gives you an all-over recap of the information that we were looking at on that other screen. So instead of individually, counting the loans and adding them up or putting them in Excel to perform those functions, you can simply click on that summary button that was on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, and we'll get, the total number of loans, and we get that separation of, how many closed-end loans are making up the filters that we looked at. How many open-end loans were there, and then the selected loans out of, the total number of loans that are active and sitting out there right now.
And so you do have to draw some of the lines together yourself based on what you're point was in setting these filters. So
Yeah.
it's doing the math for you, but basically what you can say from this statement, I'm looking at the 0.57 over on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
So what does that even mean? What that means is this is 0.5%. The loans that were opened at this branch and are maturing this year so far still is 0.5% of your portfolio. So does that mean anything to you? Is that a lot smaller than you might have expected for that particular branch? I don't know, because we set the filter to maturity. I mean, we had some intent, some purpose for wanting to look at loans that are maturing yet this year. But it's a pretty small part of your loan portfolio that is maturing.
Right.
It's potentially about to leave you, or an opportunity to capture their next loan once they pay this one off, for example. And so it's just a number on the screen. It's 0.57, but what it really does for you is it fills in that picture of this group that you filtered to. So always be keeping in mind what you're filtered to. And if you think this screen looks somewhat familiar, then I will add that you're absolutely right. This is the summary version of Tool 788 that we said this dashboard is based on. So the grand totals at the bottom and the summary report, this is exactly the same as you would find if you ran that report. So we have a question real quick.
I have employees who work at multiple branches. How does it work? How does it know which branch they're at when they originate the loan?
So the decision made on what sort of branch the employee is assigned to is exactly in the CU-based system. You can only actually assign an employee to one branch, you know, from a coding perspective. So you may have them physically rotating between different branches, but they do have an employee home branch assigned to them, and there's a tool or a custom report that could be produced for you to tell you who those people are. And that is just one of the things you kind of have to adjust for just a little bit as you're interpreting the results, because there is no way to assign multiple branches to that employee, and then you would end up double counting the loan in that case anyway on these reporting. And the alternative, the solution of, it's something that I think a lot of us could agree is a pain, and I don't anticipate a lot of you are going to say you want to do this, is to say, if this person is, before this person signs in for the day at this branch, go in and modify their home branch so that anything they do gets recorded under that branch today. Depending on how frequently this happens, you're probably going to say, I can't even believe you brought that up. That's not even an option for me.
Right.
So I'm just saying it's something that we say is either you do it that way, which we do not recommend either,
Right.
or you just understand and take note. And as we do that all the time as data analysts, we just have to tack a little asterisk on something and say, remember, this is the context of what this data means.
Right.
We have a couple employees who rotate around a couple branches, and so there's this margin of difference we might see. Very good question, though, because that is a situation that I know a lot of you guys have, where you've got employees, wearing many hats at many locations,
Right.
and you are going to potentially run into that in the future. So, is it worrying that we see all zeros on the bottom of the screen?
No, because we excluded written off loans. So if we are, in case you're worried about zeros that you're seeing on the screen, it's always good to remember that you can view filters on a lot of these different screens in this dashboard. So
Here we are again. We saw that.
Yep, it says we are not including written off loans, and that is why we're seeing all those zeros there, which is really nice.
Very cool.
Because we don't want to know anything about those right now.
And so, if you need a visual marker to jump to on this screen, if this is new to you, then that first column and the fourth column in are your high level numbers, right? What is your whole portfolio and what is your filtered, what you filtered to.
Exactly.
Those middle two, the selected open end and closed end, those are just kind of helpful.
They're just bonus.
If you had purposely only picked a closed end loan category on the filter side, you'd see all zeros in that open end column. That's kind of one of those scenarios that's normal to see.
Exactly.
So cool. So what else? The analysis screen. Let's hit that one. So when you come into this screen, and this is new, not comparable. It's an addition and enhancement compared to Tool 788, the report precursor to this dashboard. We get some of those quick summary numbers like we saw on the summary screen. So most of those summary numbers are in the top left right? So we have our selected loans and open-end and closed-end. It looks kind of familiar, hopefully.
Right.
It's in a slightly different order, right? And now we're counting up the number of members that hold those loans. Yep. And then your whole loan portfolio is our second little table down in that top right quadrant, top left quadrant. So yeah, we get some quick numbers, quick stats that way. That makes this a very cool screen to come to and pull for reporting sometimes. If you have a certain type of segment of your loan portfolio you're looking for, or just your whole loan portfolio and you want to know these numbers real quick. But, and then before I get to the very cool bottom half of the screen, we'll talk about the top right for a second. This is just saying, and it's defaulted to organizing it based on dollars. So based on dollars, out of all the selected loans, this is not your whole portfolio anymore, obviously, what are the predominant products in this group? And so if you remember, our scenario, our context is, this is a certain couple of branches set to mature this year. So what are we looking at potentially having fall off the books or need to reach out and recapture? A couple collateralized things. A
lot of
installment loan, home equity, yep, that student loan. One student loan at $5,000. So you, it's just a quick, again, it's sort of giving you a quick, like, I guess, peek into the summary of what this group even is. What happens when we click the totals button?
Spyglass. We get a pop-up of all of the information.
With rankings.
Yep.
So we are ranking these based on what balance they represent as maturing off the book soon. But we could rank it as a count of loans instead. So notice that number 8 for tied for the last place on the number of loans that a product represents is the auto indirect right there. You have $25,000 indirect loan that's going to mature yet this year. And so that's number 3 as far as dollars about to leave you, but that's only one loan. That's only one loan. So it just depends on what your angle is, what you want to see here.
The 2 rankings. And notice that, so I was doing this earlier, and I'm sorry if that annoyed anyone, but over here on the right, we have those top, what is this, 5 or 6? 6. Yeah. This is why those math summary screens are so great. But we just have the top 6 or so over in that right-hand corner, but this brings up all of your loan categories that are available. And I think it's really important to remember, it'll say this over and over again, but it's loan categories that we're looking at. So just watching for these headings that are all over.
Yeah, and we don't need to, one thing I just thought of is we don't need to go back and filter to this, but one prime example of a way that I've seen this dashboard used is to look up loans that have had a miscellaneous insurance product sold on.
Oh yeah, yes.
So they're gonna look. You're gonna look for loans that if you've got those coded into CU-Base and you're applying the code,
if you're using that feature here.
If you're using that feature, then you can set that filter and say, find me any loan that was opened last month by anybody, I don't care who, that was opened last month with one of those additional insurance products sold on it. And now that's your selected loan segment. If you were to have this screen that we're looking at right now up, then you've quickly got an answer on what loans are we most successful actually selling these additional products on. And it could be because members who are buying this type of product are just have a natural propensity more toward wanting that level of security or whatever. Or it could be that your people who are in charge of selling that type of loan are doing a really good job.
Right.
So, but you get to see which ones are kind of your high flyers. And speaking of people who might be doing a good job selling those are probably your interviewers or approvers, depending on the process. And that's what we see down here. So Diane K. Teller did sell one loan, if we were filtered to that scenario right now. Did sell one loan. It's at a $0 dispersed amount, which actually could be more like, if we might toggle that to say disbursement. No, we don't have to, but say dispersed balance, right? Because that's probably an open-ended loan,
right,
of some kind. Maybe we sold one of the disability insurance options on it or something. But so that is employee number 2 in our internal data center fake employee ID who sold all the rest of them. They win. They get 41. They get all the incentives this month, and all of those dollars and those 41 loans, they were successful at selling that. So this is one way to come in and pull out, kind of looking for employee productivity as well.
Mm-hmm.
Collectors, open by, in case you haven't been familiarized with what that means yet, that's different from the approver or the interviewer in
Right.
the sense that that's who
actually opened that loan account.
Yes, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's who basically just opened the suffix, who hit the button that opens the suffix, and potentially even funded it, although I don't think those are exactly tied
No.
together. I think you can open a suffix and then fund it later, so it's not necessarily the same thing.
Right.
I think. I'll take your word for it.
No, I'd agree. And then notice how, again, here at the bottom, we are able to toggle the information that we're looking at on the screen. There's always that never-ending option of, I'm looking at this data right now, but can I see it in a different light? Once again, we're able to filter by the current balance, so how much it's owed, in case you're evaluating that for whatever reason. And we're also able to view the percentage out of all as opposed to the subset.
And because this is a pretty small, 42 loans out of 7,400,
probably not a good idea to look at all.
It all went down to like 0.1% or 0, right?
0.3.
because it is. It's a small percentage of all your loans. But imagine if you could quickly tell your boss that number or figure out for yourself that number to say, out of all the loans we sold this year so far, what percent have we sold insurance products on?
Yeah.
Gap or mechanical breakdown.
Go back to the good numbers.
Yeah. Good numbers.
Right.
So, probably we're getting pretty close to having covered quite a couple of scenarios and some of the more interesting kind of drill downs that we could do. Did we talk about common bonds yet?
No, we did not. That's one of my favorites. So common bonds is great. In case you want to analyze the actual people that are holding all of these loan accounts. So we've been doing a lot of talking about like how to analyze the loan accounts and the loans themselves on here, which is great from a lending standpoint. But if you're more of like a marketing person or you just have a natural curiosity for these types of things, common bonds is probably going to be one of your best friends on a lot of our dashboards. But right here, this is the one where we get to see what do all these members that have all these not written off loans that are maturing this year, what do they have in common? So
one really common one I see used with this dashboard is option number 3, credit history trend.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know that we're going to get any good results on our test credit with that, but how cool would it be if you could take this segment and go find that credit history, credit quality, and credit history of this group just on the fly, and then back up, filter to a different group, and quickly get the same information.
So like Annalyn was just saying, this credit history trends is a really popular one, especially when you're looking at your lending portfolio, because obviously that's one of the big deciding factors there. But there are other options. So we can view by account composition. So do they share a lot in common with each other based off of their accounts, off of their membership traits, things like age, location. So, not by branch location, but more like zip code, so their address. So when I'm saying location, they're living, residence, that's the word. That location is the one that I'm referring to. And then if you're using tiered services, tiered service analysis, and even if you're not, there is one goal that's still relatable to all of us, and that is self-service penetration. So are they using online banking? Would it be worth it to reach out to these members that we're looking at right here to potentially recapture business or sell them on more business, other business, whatever it might be, via online banking, via email? Are they engaged on an electronic level, or is this something that would be better for calls? One
thing I just thought of that I have not thought of yet before this moment, but under the tiered service analysis engine of common bonds, there is I think it's on goal 5. So we don't need to go look at it necessarily, but just note that goal 5 holds a line item that will tell you the number of people in this segment who have an automatic funds transfer to their loan, and the number of people in this segment who have an ACH direct, incoming ACH direct to their loan as well.
Yes, that's also cool to know. Anyone that you want to explore today, maybe membership traits?
Yeah, let's look at membership traits real quick.
So when I select membership traits and hit enter, that's all I'm doing. It automatically brings us to these analysis screen.
Why is
at the member level
there only 33 records on this one? Because we had 42 loans.
Right, because members can have more than one loan, right? You're not limited to only having one loan at the credit union, I guess. unless you're borrowing, way too much money, but or the max amount of money. But we're looking at the membership level information now. We're not looking at the loan account level. You have to remember right now what we're doing by clicking on that common bonds option is jumping into it and looking at it from a membership perspective. So we're looking at the shared compositions of like age, obviously on the screen here, by the membership. So this is not the age of the loan. I don't think I've ever seen a 79-year loan, but we're looking at the age of the member themselves, not how long they've been a member, but how old they are, as well as, are they an individual or not? Why you would have someone under 10 with a loan, I'm not sure. But
so a couple different ways,
to view the
couple
data.
different ways to look at figuring out and visualizing. And this is a great chart to show, to drop into a report or take a screenshot, shoot it into an email off to someone and just say, take a look. It looks like whatever product this was we filtered to was most popular with the 30 to 39 age group.
And if you wanted to play around with it a little bit more, you could export the information, the charts and stuff on the screen out to a PDF or an Excel file. Play with it a little bit more there, rebrand it.
So this is when we come into Common Bonds, there's always going to be charts first on these two account and membership angles, but you can, I think you're about to click toggle to the data view.
Yep, and get those charts.
And yeah, so we've got the charts, and these are also what'll come down to Excel as well. But if it's easier to read it up and down like this for you, that's perfectly fine as well. Let's go to one of the next screens. I just want to.
So you can click, I think there's a continue button at the bottom. You can also hit enter through these screens. Just a side note in case you're more of a keyboard lover than a mouse person.
True. True. You may not always want to know the patterns of what day of the week people have opened their loans for this segment, but think about a scenario where you're trying to look at people who've opened their loans this year to date, or just last month. You're coming in and running it for last month's time period. And clearly Tuesday was the most popular day last month. So is that, now this Tuesday might not have been, keep in mind, this is based on open date.
Right.
This is not the day you get the most applications. So you'd have to maybe go look somewhere else to look for application date, look at what application.
Look at a loan app productivity dashboard.
For what day your loan officers, your interviewers and underwriters were actually really busy. This is the day you closed and opened loans. But interesting information to see in a pretty flat line through the end of the week after we spiked up on Tuesday. So just very interesting to quantify some of this information. And also women, apparently, also
that's surprising.
Brought the most loans to you for this segment. Quick question: what is gold 5? I think it's kind of far away somewhere.
Are we talking about goal 5?
Oh, goal. Yeah, you're right. So I said it probably sounded like I said gold, and I had actually meant to say goal. Goal, GOAL 5.
And when we're looking at those tiered services screens, there's a couple of other analysis options that pop up as opposed to these, pretty little chart screens that we get, or graph screens, excuse me, that we get and we hit enter through. There are actually buttons down at the bottom of it that have like a summary, goal 1, goal 2, goal 3. When you're looking at tiered services, there's a total of 5 goals.
And they're broken down by just a different focus, right?
Yeah, so savings, loans, self-service, and
there's one that we qualify, we label it as sort of a PFI indicators, primary financial institution indicators.
Yep. So sorry for that. It's goal.
It was me just talking too fast.
Good question, though. What happens if I click on some of these?
Yeah, check this out. So we got a pop-up. It sort of spotlighted that particular point, this gender breakdown, and gave us the table alongside it.
You could have one of my favorites too. Yeah, this is what I like to put into a report if I'm going to look at this type of information.
A quick tip for everyone. One of the things, huge, I love it here. It's one of our favorite new upcoming enhancements to CU-based dashboards. One of our Asterisk Intelligence team favorite upcoming enhancements is in the May release coming up later in a couple months. There's going to be, built onto these charting and graphing screens, there's going to be just a small button that you click that automatically puts these into your clipboard as an image. You don't need to snip or do fancy screenshotting, cropping type of tricks.
Right.
It'll actually be a button built right onto these screens. You hit it or right click and copy the chart, and it's automatically in your clipboard ready to be pasted into a report.
All right. you want to keep going, or should we back out?
Yeah, well, I think let's do one more. So the next screen actually is one I think I like. Like, hit the data view, toggle to the data view.
Okay, here we go.
I might be wrong. Okay, this isn't the one I was thinking it was, but I like it still because this is where I send a lot of people to look for reasons these loans were open, especially if we're looking at loans that we're trying to track loans that have recently been opened or
for a specific promotion.
Yeah, for a specific promotion or a certain product, and we're trying to say, why do people come to us for this product? Because we want to get more of them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's try to tune in to that purpose and find more.
Word of mouth.
Yeah, word of mouth, relative.
That's what I'm getting out of that one anyway.
Pre-conversion account looks like, so a couple we must just recently converted.
Right.
If we're trying to say this is real data, but yeah, and then a quick seg summary. Notice these are not like the, back in the origination dashboard, we had a totals button where we could pop up the whole list.
Oh, yep.
These, we do just see sort of our
breakdown.
It's your top 10 list. I think it's actually 8 or 9. And then everything else gets lumped into an other or none group. But the goal here is to just really look at what are those top coding, what are the top reasons or top segs that are represented in this group. So that's probably good. Again, this is just analysis 3 of 5. So there's 2 whole more screens we could look at.
There's more.
If we had gone into the account composition, there would be 10, analysis 1 through 10.
This is still pretty cool though. I love looking at self-service penetration. Whenever I'm looking, I came from marketing, so it's kind of pertinent, or pretty pertinent. And we're looking here just to see, how engaged are these members. So say you were evaluating your indirect loans, if you wanted to come through here and see which of your indirect members is involved in other ways. I always think it's kind of funny when I've been looking at indirect members for a while. And I noticed that the ones that are more involved were already members to begin with. They just ended up going to the dealership to get their loan, and it just so happened to be that they're credit union partners with that dealership for indirect lending, whereas the ones that stay less involved were those that weren't a member to begin with. So I'm just looking at that penetration there with your indirect members.
17 of them have an email address, so they're contactable.
I was just going to say that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So come from marketing background.
So, like over, what is that, about 50% of these members you could contact via an e-communication campaign of some sort.
And hopefully you have a phone number for all of them too. So if you, that's fine if you just can't email them, but.
Or snail mail, but phone and email are always quicker.
So everything, I hope, I don't want to confuse anyone. You can go ahead and keep going, but I don't want to confuse anybody. Everything we've looked at for the past 5, 6, 7 minutes or so has been we've linked our data set that we got through the dashboard into Common Bonds. Common Bonds is totally separate from Tool 1670. It's its own tool. And so Common Bonds, everything we've seen today, we've been talking about in the context of the data that we collected through the loan productivity dashboard. But Common Bonds is built into many, many, many other dashboards as well. So everything, all of this information about their services, their membership, and their account that we're able to analyze is a standalone analysis engine that you could apply to any other dashboard as well. Exactly. Just hopefully closing the circle on some of the deeper levels you can get into this data. It's not just about pulling up a list of rows and columns. It's not just about finding who your top employer was. There are so many different angles you can dig this data into and get information.
Data source. This is my favorite button. For those of you who are analysts or you're fanatics of Report Builder or just digging into the data a little bit deeper, that data source button down there on the bottom left is one of my favorites because first we get the chance to see, what files is this dashboard working with? Are we looking at end of month files? Are we looking at current month files? And then what fields are we actually using out of those different files that are there? And so some of you we might have just lost. You're saying, why do I need this again? I really hope I don't have to use that. This looks like Greek a little bit. But that's fair. If this doesn't mean anything to you, right? You can tune that part out. But do please know that you will really help out whoever works at your credit union, whoever does build custom reports at your credit union. If you are saying, I like this dashboard, but I need a custom version of it for whatever reason, take a screenshot of this page, the data sources, and send it to your
your buddy who's going to build you the custom report, because you will make
Exactly.
them very happy and they will be very grateful.
Less research for
that you
them.
pointed them towards the right files and fields to use.
Exactly.
And yeah, I love this. I love this button as well. You only use it if you need it, but when you need it, it's good to have.
And when you click on it and you don't understand it, you just back right out.
Mm-hmm.
Or call us. We'll talk to you about it.
Exactly. So we have covered, I think, from A to Z so far, right?
Yeah, we've covered everything. Anyone have questions, obviously, ask them.
Mm-hmm.
We'll watch for them really quick. Type furiously.
Yeah. Not quickly, but while we're waiting for a second or any follow-up questions to come through, we've probably covered just about everything, unless you do have a question, but I did just think of something. Oh, this, and hopefully you can probably guess at the answer to this, but I do want to make the point that this is only ever going to be pointed at your online loan portfolio.
Oh, yes.
So if you have any off-trial balance, we call OTB loans, student loans, credit cards, if your credit cards are off the book.
Some mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
And home equity products.
Then you won't see those included in these results. And any portfolio numbers or calculations that you see accordingly are have to be adjusted that way. That's sort of the natural, I guess I mentioned earlier, sometimes you gotta, based on how you understand the data to work, tack a little asterisk on something and just make a comment about what the context is, and that's one of those asterisks.
All right, we have a question that just came through. Where can I find information on loan late fees applied to specific loan types?
And so there is this particular this dashboard is not going to be focusing on delinquency and fee processing most often. There is somewhere in here, I thought there was, maybe not payment frequency.
There's a lot of there's a whole payment information section down here on the left.
But unless that may be something that you want to go pick a different dashboard for, or check delinquency analysis through Tool 788, which does have that angle to dig into delinquency. And then also, depending on how you're posting those loan late fees, if it's a system posting them, which I think they would be, check out some of our other dashboards that are looking at your fee income. There's a fee income and waivers dashboard.
Oh, yes.
I forget the tool number, but type in the keyword, search that out, and see if you get anything valuable out there as well. So, next question.
We have another question that says, can I email someone about what I'm specifically trying to do with these dashboards for additional help? I just popped in our team's email address. If you send an email to AI, capital AI for *intelligence@cuanswers.com, that email will go to Keegan, Thomas, Annalyn, and myself, and any one of us would be glad to respond and assist you.
Absolutely.
And that's true for everyone on the call, not just the person that has.
True.
All right.
Very cool.
I think we just about covered everything here.
All right. Well, we'll let everybody off for the rest of your afternoon. We really do appreciate you spending some of your time with us this afternoon. And if I feel bad, I forgot what our next week's dashboard dive top. Oh, I think it's EFT usage.
Yep, it is the EFT analysis.
So next Thursday at 3 o'clock, we are covering the EFT portfolio, EFT usage portfolio dashboard. And go ahead and register for that one if that's a topic that interests you, or shoot it off to a colleague if there's someone else at your credit union you think is going to want to know how to better utilize that particular dashboard. So that's it. Everybody have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.